So, the San Antonio Spurs just won 126 to 104. They won 126 to 104 against the Bucks. Hmm. Okay. Interesting. Uh, I'll be honest with you guys. I was cooking for a lot of this game, kind of watching and listening out of the corner of my eye. Only lost a few fingers chopping vegetables. What I did see of this game was that the Spurs hit like 19 threes, which is second most in the history of the franchise. So anytime you almost set your franchise record for threes made, uh, got a good chance of winning that game. Still, like it felt weird with the Spurs up like 15 like halfway through the fourth quarter, and you were like, okay, when's Giannis gonna make his run? uh, but the Spurs played awesome defense on Giannis. I mean, like they built a wall pretty much every single time down the court. And like he had what do you have 24 points on 10 of 12. But he had to work so damn hard for that. Yeah, 24 points, 10 of 22. I'm sorry, 0 5 for 3. Only got 4 free throws in this game. Um, Offensively for the Spurs, DeMar DeRozan was fantastic again. Um, he shot 11 of 15 from the floor in this game, and he had 7 assists, all of them on three-point shots. Reminded me of that Detroit game, not the blowout loss, the blowout win, where he had, I think, 25 points. Um, and uh, yeah, the inside out with him running the offense is quite good. Made curry. It actually turned out pretty well. A little too sweet, but you know, less sugar next time. Uh, Somebody here on the YouTube chat just said they hit 19 threes with Forbes only hitting one and Marco DNP. Does that mean we don't need them to space the floor? Interesting. So the Spurs almost set their franchise record for three-pointers made uh, without significant contributions from two guys who have only played this year of their shooting. Um, where did the other threes come from? Two from Trey Lyles, who shot just 2 of 11 for the entire game. Aldridge hit 2 of 3. DeJounte Murray, 3 of 4 at Keesum. I tweeted during the game, like, because DeJounte has been turning up his three-point shooting. He's 9 of 14 in the last 7 games. And I was like, at somebody who you think would love to see this information. I'm a little disappointed that like 100 people didn't at Keesum. Like, what are you guys doing? Wake up. Uh, just kidding. Not at all kidding. But the guy who hit the most threes in this game was Patty Mills. 6 of 10. All of his attempts were from three. Uh, Playing with a heavy heart, obviously. The fires in Australia are just devastating. And he said as much in the post game. He said as much, um, on Twitter, pregame shoot around. Like, this is. I mean that whole country's on fire. Um, so if I'll I'll try to find some good charities to donate to help because I mean it is really terrifying what's going on over there. Um, and Bill Land in his interview was like, "Well, you put on an inspiring performance today. Hopefully, it brought some cheer to the people down under," and that's a nice thought. Um, and Patty this year has been a very valuable player for the Spurs. Like without him, I don't know where they'd be. They'd be worse than 15-20, that's for sure. Um, but yeah, he was major in this game. Rudy Gay, 17 points, 8 rebounds. The thing before this game, uh, I did a video obviously on Lonnie Walker finally getting the start, and I didn't think that Pop would give Lonnie Walker a start and then go backward. I thought that the entire purpose of letting Bryn Forbes play start for almost 35 games was so that when he did make the move to start Lonnie, it would he was sure about it, and there was no like going back on it. I was wrong about that. I was kind of shocked and disappointed to see Bryn Forbes in the starting lineup. Um, he had 6 points, 2 of 6, 1 of 4 from three. He did play harder on defense like I've ever seen him play. Um, so that's good. If he's going to be playing, I want to see him play, aggressively, hard on defense. Um, so that was encouraging to see. But I mean, the main reason why Lonnie in the starting lineup worked so well was because um, the defense. He could defend Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton, he missed a lot of open shots in this game. 1 of 7 from three, and a bunch of them were open. Um, they dodged a couple of bullets early in this one. So, if he knocks down some of those shots and the Bucks get an early lead and then can extend it, the game looks entirely different. But that's not what happened. He missed those shots, and the Spurs survived and then were able to build their own lead. Um, Obviously, this was kind of an outlier shooting game. This was like the Spurs are not going to shoot whatever it was 55% from three every single game. They'll be lucky if they do it again, a handful of times for the rest of the year. Somebody mentioned earlier in the chat that maybe that went into the starting lineup because the second unit was bad in the other Bucks game, and the second unit was terrible in the first Bucks game because you had Patty, Bryn Forbes, and Marco Bellinelli. Marco was on espresso duty tonight, did not play. Damari Carroll actually got 2 minutes in garbage time. Marco didn't play, and somebody tweeted me that there was a timeout with the Spurs up like 17 with 2 minutes left, and somebody said, "Oh, Marco didn't look happy," and my brain went to that Chappelle bit where he's like, "Who cares what Ja Rule thinks at a time like this?" like the Spurs were beating the Bucks by 20. I don't care if Marco's sour on the and if Marco is sour on the bench, I don't know if he was, but tough, deal with it. Like this team plays better when you don't play at all. And that's quite obvious. And that's a tough thing to swallow, but how much more do we need to watch to come to that conclusion? And I get I understand the theory that okay, obviously you can't have Patty, Bryn, and Marco playing together. But so that happened mainly because DeJounte Murray was out for the previous game. Derek White was back on the bench in his traditional role. So, I mean, they theoretically could have rolled out Patty, Bryn, and then Derek either at point or at the three, whatever you want to do. He would be guarding the three. Um, so they could have done that. Um, I don't know if it would have been so great, but it could have worked. They didn't need to put Bryn in the starting lineup for staggering purposes. I get that. That's like I at the beginning of the year, that was kind of my mindset was, you can't have too much Bryn and Patty overlap. So Bryn starting makes sense. But Bryn's defense the entire year has made that reality kind of uh, not work for the Spurs. Um, so it'll be interesting to see how Pop handles the rotation moving forward. Um, it was funny at the end of this game because it seems like when Lonnie's in with the starters, he's very deferential, which you want him to be when he's playing with guys like DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge and DeJounte Murray. Like those are guys who need touches and shots, and he has accepted the role of floor spacer and just play lockdown defense. Like when he's playing with those guys, that's what he's doing. With the bench unit, he can attack a little bit more. He can play a little freer with a little more latitude because he's one of the only creators in that bench unit. Um, and then when he's when he's playing in garbage time, he's just like flamethrower out, dude. Like he's going for blood, and it's cool. He was padding the crap out of his stats in overtime. He finished not overtime, garbage time. Um, he finished with 8 points, but I think he got four of those in the last couple minutes there. 7 rebounds, which ties his career high. And he got a bunch of those in garbage time. But he played a good game. He played good defense. Lonnie played 20 minutes tonight. And I think it's still a little bit lopsided in the wrong way when you have Bryn and Patty combining for 50 minutes and Lonnie and Derek combining for 40. And that's like I've talked with you guys a good bit on here about this rotation. But one thing that like throughout the year, what we've seen is, you know, starting lineup, DeJounte, Bryn, DeMar, Trey, LaMarcus. Then each of those guys has a backup. And then it's them plus their backup equals 48 minutes has pretty much been the rotation. And I would prefer to see a little bit more mixing and matching. And actually, in this game, we saw some of that. It was interesting because, like, there were a couple of times in the third and fourth quarter where, like, Pop would take Lonnie out for like a couple plays and then put him back in. So there was a lot more like shuffling of the deck in this game, and that was cool to see. Um, but yeah, I mean, this absolutely is the best win of the Spurs season because it is the worst loss of the best team in the league's season. I mean, the Bucks' previous worst loss was 10 or 12 points, um, and the Spurs beat them by 22. Um, and was it perfect? No, but like when you see the way this team is playing, it you can apply that to pretty much everything else going forward. Somebody just asked about LaMarcus hitting threes. I mean, that's the biggest difference with this team, and it's not just him hitting threes. It's him fundamentally changing his approach to the game. That's the thing that, like, you know, it's earlier in the season, the offense was centered around LaMarcus Aldridge in the post, and it didn't work, especially when he was sharing the floor with DeMar DeRozan because DeMar DeRozan can't space the floor, and also because LaMarcus Aldridge in the post at age 34 is not as effective as he used to be. Um, and somewhere along the way, something clicked with him, with the coaching staff, with the game plan. Um, and he's gone away from that post up. He's pretty much only doing it if he has a mismatch or if the offense bogs down and they need a bucket, throw it to him in the post. Okay, but like you can't get threes out of post ups uh, as a big man, and the way that he is playing alongside DeMar DeRozan as DeMar attacks the rim uh, is a huge deal. Um, and especially against a team like the Bucks that has a rim protector like Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez had 7 blocks in the previous game. 7 blocks. You know what makes it way harder for a rim protector to get blocks? If he's guarding a 7-footer who is setting hard screens high and popping to the three-point arc. That's pulling him all the way out there, pulling him way further from the basket and opening things up for everybody else. If LaMarcus Aldridge posts up, kicks out, somebody tries to drive, guess where Brook Lopez is? Standing under the basket. So it's an approach thing. It is 100% an approach thing, and this approach has been wildly effective. Like looks like a completely different team effective. Yeah. Um, the this is pretty much the only way that the DeMar and LaMarcus pairing works. Um, it's with the ball in DeMar's hands and LaMarcus Aldridge picking, popping, spacing the floor, doing all the little things to help his teammates. It was cool to see. It's really, really dope. And it worked to perfection tonight. And LaMarcus Aldridge, oh, by the way, played some great deal. I know Giannis still almost got his average, but I mean they worked really hard to hold him to that. And it was a concerted effort. In the previous game, we saw them sort of execute the same game plan. Allow him to shoot outside jumpers. Don't let him get anywhere near the paint. Yeah, that wall defense. Pretty much every time Giannis was coming up the court, the Spurs had here. Let's draw this over here. Anytime Giannis was coming down the court, that's Giannis. The Spurs had 3 guys like that, or down here, so that whether he went left, right, or straight, he was going into somebody, and that made him give up the ball. So it was a really effective defensive game plan against a guy who's going to be in the MVP conversation this year. And look to see other teams using that. Spurs certainly didn't invent it. We saw that in the playoffs a lot last year. That was a big reason why the Bucks got knocked out of the playoffs, was because they kind of got it figured out. And Giannis can hit those outside shots, Exactly. Yeah, that's what the Sixers did. Um, Giannis can hit those outside shots, but um, he hasn't done it at a clip that's going to be super duper dangerous. Let's see what he's shooting on threes this year. He's shooting 34% on threes. And like for a guy that big, for a guy that dangerous when he gets close to the basket, that's really good. Um, Still the kind of thing where he has good nights, he has bad nights. And if you have to pick your poison with him, you you absolutely pick him shooting almost league average from 3, which sucks, but, like, it's way better than letting him get into the paint. I mean, you can't do that. Um, so, yeah, I mean, what a quality win for the Spurs tonight. This was, could this be a turning point for their whole season? I mean, if they wanna go to the playoffs, it'll have to be. Um, they are 15 and 20 now, San Antonio. Let's take a look at the standings. This thing they were in, the 8th spot. Um, so, yeah, the bottom of the West is super, super weird this year. Um, let's see. Full standings. This Celtics game is obviously gonna be another big test. The Celtics are the second best team in the East, behind the Bucks. They're 25 and 9 this year. The Spurs are pretty solidly in the 8th seed in the West. They're a game up on Memphis, a game up on Portland, a game up on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Uh, and yeah, OKC is 20 and 16. Um, the Spurs definitely have a chance to make the playoffs. Um, I would say they have a chance at that 7th seed. I would say that 7th seed is their only real chance at winning a first round series. Because if they're the A seed, then they gotta play the Lakers, and that's not gonna happen. Um, I'm fairly certain. I'm not I'm not gonna make any guarantees because I wouldn't have, expected them to hang with the Bucks for the first game and then beat them the second. Um, but yeah, I can see the Spurs ratcheting things up and either staying in that 8th seed, securing that 8th seed, or fighting into the 7th. But there are also they could also wind up like the Sacramento Kings, who, I don't expect this much out of this season, but they're 2.5 games behind the Spurs, and there there are 4 teams in between them, uh, including 3 mentioned before in the Suns. So, you know, and like I want the Spurs to make the playoffs. Like I don't the idea of them tanking is like, I mean, they would never do it. Um, and there's nothing there's nobody I've seen worth tanking for, you know. This is a pretty weak draft class. Um, in terms of making trades, I don't know because like now the Spurs are actually kind of figuring out how to play with each other. Um, DeMar and LaMarcus especially. Um, I think if the Spurs do make a trade, it will be one of the redundant shooters. Um, Something that makes a lot of sense would be sending Marco back to Philly, where he played, because Philly desperately needs outside shooting. Um, so yeah, something like that could happen. I think as the Spurs continue to play at a higher level, the likelihood that they'll move a piece like DeRozan or Aldridge goes down significantly. Not to say it's not going to happen because you know we're 6 days into January and this is still going to be a very tough month for San Antonio. Let's see what the rest of the schedule looks like this month. They play Miami twice. They play Boston. Like it's not going to be easy for them to maintain this pace. Um, Boston, at Memphis, at Toronto, at Miami, versus Atlanta, versus Miami, at Phoenix, at New Orleans, versus Phoenix, versus Toronto, at Chicago, versus Utah. You know what? None of those teams are better than Milwaukee. I mean, if we see the Spurs play the way they played tonight, I mean they proved they can beat anybody. Um, even if not all of those shots are falling, they can they're locking in a little bit on defense. And yeah, this offense built around the DeMar and LaMarcus pick and pop is scary. Um, so we'll see. I'm excited to watch this tape and break down exactly what worked and the parts that didn't, the parts they got away with. But um, this is far and away their best win of the entire season, and it was fun to watch. It was fun to witness. Um, that Twitter, YouTube, follow me on Twitter. Twitter, subscribe to my YouTube. I'm gonna give away one of those Lonnie shirts to one of my YouTube subscribers. In I guess I'll pick that in the end of tomorrow. Give people some more time. Um, but yeah, guys, thanks for hanging out, and see you tomorrow. And go Spurs, go!